All right, man. We're ready to roll on this if you are.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I don't have a comp.
Dude. Welcome to another episode of Boom or Bust, the draft show. Max Chadwick alongside Nick Merriam, Donny Clemons, another special guest. This is probably our last scouting report that we're going to do for this draft cycle. We had to bring on a big guy, Theo Ash, who you might probably know on TikTok, probably know on Twitter as well, at Theo Ash NFL. Theo, thanks so much for coming on for this, man.
No problem. Glad to be here, breaking down some prospects. Did you say your last scouting report?
Yeah, man. We've done like 20, 25.
Yeah, we've done over 20 for sure.
Okay, so we're getting into some bigger topic videos later on after the combine's over. But the last one we got to do, Ahmad Sauce Gardner, the Cincinnati corner, scouting report on him, strengths, weaknesses, player comp, ranking, team fit, so much more. Before we start the video, please like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at Boomer Bust Draft. Of course, follow Theo on Twitter and TikTok, at Theo Ash NFL as well. So let's go over Sauce Gardner. He's a junior, 6'3", 200 pounds, former three-star recruit, number 1,672 overall, which is actually the same ranking that Theo has on his big board right now for Sauce Gardner. But
okay. I still have a first-round grade on him. Just
no, I know.
But it's not as crazy as some people are.
Number 163 corner.
He was like 160 pounds going into college or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Yeah, he was like ungodly small for a corner. So yeah, that makes sense that he was.
We're gonna get into that too. Number 163 corner in the class of 2019 out of Michigan. 13 games this year, 3 picks, 4 pass breakups, 5 tackles for loss. In his career, 9 picks, 16 pass breakups, and 5.5 tackles for loss. And on our latest big board, number 8 overall, CB2 on the big board. But Theo, when you watch Sauce Gardner, man, what do you like the most?
Well, I think the most valuable skill and something that everyone is looking for in a corner is just being on an island, manning up, and just winning. All right. You don't have to worry about it. The guy that he's on is going to have a quiet day. And that is what Sauce Gardner did all the time at Cincinnati. Like man coverage, play after play after play, snap after snap after snap. And he just never got beat, like ever, for a touchdown, right, in his whole college career, which is the stat I keep seeing. And I couldn't find one either. I don't know if that's, yeah, I don't have any quarrels with that stat. Yeah, he's never got beat. So it's hard to have like hard to have a better resume than what he has. And he did it mostly just one-on-one beating his guy. So yeah, that's good. That is good. As far as strengths go, you see he's pretty fast. I don't have any questions about his long speed. That initial punch is deadly. Mirroring the wide receiver off the release, does a good job at all of that. And at the catch point, I think he's a really long corner, obviously 6'3", long arms, and it's just difficult to be in a position where he can't, get at it because of his length and the size of his arms and his intuition. So yeah, really good in that press man coverage type of role, which is what everybody wants. And yeah, that's a good thing to be really good at.
Yeah, I you said that all well. I think outside of the ability to just press, I think his versatility increased this year. You saw them move him around a little bit more, do a little bit more in that Cincinnati defense. He did play a little bit in the slot. I don't know that he's going to be, mainly a slot guy at the next level, but I think you saw, more of that on tape from him. For me, the biggest strength is kind of the top end coming together of both play recognition and instincts in his game. You can see early on in some of his tape, he has instincts. He's a long guy. He's got long arms. He has speed. I'm very interested to see what his 40 time is going to be, because I think he could be a guy who could run anywhere from like low 4.4s to high 4.3s. I have no clue what he's going to run, but he would generally just kind of allow his instincts to dictate how he played 2 years ago in that defense. You see a lot of plays where he'd be trailing and using his length and catch-up speed, he'd make a lot of plays. This year, I think he put together play recognition and instincts, and he was able to kind of play from a position less of trailing corners, more of being on them, mirroring them, but also putting together what he did as a corner, being able to watch quarterbacks and what the offense is doing and react in multiple ways more than just where the ball is going to be on the play. But outside of that, the physical tools are intriguing. You don't see too many 6'3" cornerbacks. I'm struggling to comp him because there's really just not a lot of guys. A lot of guys that are that big generally play safety. I mean, you look for range at that position. You want guys who can move sideline to sideline and length, arm length, things like that are more helpful for that. Corners, it's good to have long arms. Everyone looks for that. But generally, guys who are 6'3" don't move as well as Ahmad Gardner does. And that's intriguing in its own way. So there's a little bit of a tools thing there. There's a little bit of technical ability there. It's a lot of things, in my opinion, coming together to make a corner that, although he didn't play against great opponents, he also put up really good tape against better when he did end up playing good opponents. Like you've seen them, they play Tulsa, they play Tulane, and then they come and they play Alabama. And his bet, honestly, we talked about last year with the South Carolina corner, whose name
JC
Horn. JC Horn. We
man,
talked about his best,
game.
The best game from one player last year, single tape, was JC Horn against Seth Williams in Auburn. Right. I think this year that best one game we've seen from any player on tape could be Sauce Gardner against Alabama. Now, to be fair, Alabama did just kind of play away from him and just run the ball the whole game. But if you look outside of just the tackles and what Alabama was doing, the reason they're doing that is because really Jamison Williams and John Mechie were not gaining much separation from Ahmad Gardner, regardless of what was going on.
Yeah. No corner in this class, in my opinion, has better production than Sauce. I mean, maybe you can say Stingley had the best year, the best single year of any corner in the draft. It is Derek Stingley. But if you combine every year that each of these cornerback prospects have played, it is Sauce Gardner. And even though he never really played great competition, like Nick nicely said, when he went up against the best competition, like Georgia, like Alabama, it was arguably some of his best games, which is great to hear because that means you're going up against, and yes, he didn't go one-on-one against Jamison Williams the whole game. He wasn't left on an island against him, but he had a decent amount of snaps on him, and when he went up against him, he shut him down, and Alabama respected that so much that they had the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback on their roster, and they didn't really throw the ball that much because they were like, hey, we respect Ahmad Gardner and Kobe Bryant. We respect these guys. Obviously more Sauce than Kobe, but we respect these guys. So we're not going to try to beat you with our passing game. We're going to beat you with our run game. And that's how Alabama obviously made it to the national championship. And nothing really else to add on. They kind of mentioned it nicely. This is just another guy that you just leave on an island in man coverage, and even zone coverage. I think he's actually very, very good. But in man coverage, you leave him on an island. He can do his thing. He may not be a Derek Stingley athlete, but he's still a very good athlete and has unbelievable length at the cornerback position. And honestly, I know this sounds crazy, but I think he might have safety versatility just because of the length. I know he never really played it there, and I'm not saying he should because I think cornerback might be more valuable than safety. But if you want to try it, I mean, I wouldn't be against it.
Yeah, you guys mentioned it all. I mean, that wingspan is the first thing. The pterodactyl type wingspan that you see on him allows him to swallow up receivers, use that length really well. He excels in press coverage. Extremely physical corner. But the thing is, last year he was so physical that we came on and we were saying, hey, there are a lot of penalties, man. He's got to clean that up. He did. He played like the perfect amount of physical type play at the corner position where right before the referee's about to pull that flag out and throw it, he stopped. And the referee's like, all right, there's not a flag on that. So I think he played a really good brand of physical play at corner. Theo, you mentioned the stat, man, dominant throughout his career. Didn't allow a touchdown on over 1,100 coverage snaps is what I saw. And his nickname is Sauce, dude. His nickname is Sauce, and he's sick. Like that. If Kool-Aid McKinstry ends up being sick for Alabama, he might be CB1 in this draft too. But Theo, I know you're a little bit lower on Sauce. I made a joke earlier that you had him like 1,000 or wherever. I know you still like him a lot, man. But what are the weaknesses that give you pause about Sauce Gardner?
As tall as he is, he's really, really thin. Still, he's not as thin as he was when he got it to Alabama, but not Alabama, Cincinnati. But he's still someone like, if you think about your favorite corner on your favorite team, just most of them aren't as thin as he is. Most of them aren't just like these real wiry, thin dudes. Like Ramsey's, built, and all these guys are get more muscle than he has right now. So when I look at him, it's just like kind of a unique body type in a lot of different ways, and I do think he should add some weight to his frame. The other thing that I think is a little bit concerning with him, although it didn't really impact his production much, is just his pad level and the way that he plays. He's very upright a lot. Like you watch some guys really like sink their hips and they'll be real low, and low man wins. Like that is true for most positions where you want to be able to be as low as possible. You want to be kind of coiled up. It's just a more athletic position to be in, like when you're kind of tense and low than like just upright and high. And he can be a little bit upright and high sometimes and thin. And I worry a little bit about that kind of like technical side to him. I do think that sometimes he's a little bit janky getting his hips around and reacting real quickly and being real twitchy, just because I think he does play a little bit too upright. Obviously, when I did see it, it didn't really end in him getting burned because of his other traits and the competition that he played. But in the NFL, I could see that thinness. He's not a very good tackler at all, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's not a good tackler. Plays a little bit too upright, and he's a little bit too thin. Those are kind of my concerns with him. And in a stacked cornerback year, a stacked cornerback year, there are just some guys who I think are just a little bit more of a complete package. But when I say like some guys, I only mean like 2 or 3.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about the cornerbacks. Just there's so many guys, so much depth this year that there's really, nothing wrong with, if you have a couple qualms with one player, they might be further down your board just because other guys obviously have different skill sets that might fit more to other teams more than, say a guy like Sauce Gardner in this situation. We already touched on 2 of the things I'm going to talk about, but I might expand on them a little bit more. One of them obviously is frame. He came in at 180 last year. He did get up to 200 pounds supposedly this year.
Supposedly.
We don't know that for sure.
We'll see.
That one we'll find out at the combine. Another mealement at the combine that I'll be very interested in.
Hopefully we get a combine.
Yeah, hopefully we get a combine. Right, that's a big news story that came out this week. Yeah, it might not even be 6'3". I mean, you never know with the way this is going these days. All these guys are much bigger listing up in their colleges than they are in real life. But that frame got more weight on. I do think he looks like he added weight from last year, even if it's not 20 pounds. He does look like he's put on more muscle, and his movement I think didn't really change with that added weight. But he's still thin, and even if you were to add more weight on that, now you're getting into a range of like, okay, this guy added 20 pounds. He didn't really lose his movement skills. If you add another 10, 15 pounds, not many guys can add like 30 to 35 pounds and not lose some speed, So that's a concern for me. And then another thing is, I'm blanking right now. What was the other thing we talked about? Right, the physicality. We talked about penalties last year. That was a big thing. And I know they dipped this year, but a lot of things we're starting to see with data with corners at the NFL level is that, a lot of guys play 1 or 2 years, they're excellent, and it's really hard to consistently be like that elite corner year after year. And we've seen that with Derek Stingley. He had his great year, 3 years ago, and when he's played, he's been good, not great. And Ahmad Gardner obviously has been great these past 2 years, but it wouldn't be, completely out of this world for me to think that this guy could come to the NFL and go back to playing a physical style of football that does draw penalty flags. And I know that we think he made this adjustment this year, but just because it's a 1 year of data, to me, it hasn't really locked that down in my head that he's definitely not going to play a style of football that allows for him to get called for a lot of penalties at the NFL level. And that's something I'd be waiting to see that you really don't see until the guy's on the field.
Yeah, I wish J.C. Horn played like a full year this year because that could kind of like
give. He was so good his first few games. He was so good. He was
really grabby in college, and obviously that did not deter NFL teams from taking him. He was the first cornerback off the board, even above Pat Surtain and Caleb Farley and those guys. So obviously NFL teams are willing to kind of overlook that grabbiness, or at least they were last year with the rise of Horn. But I wish we could get a full year of Horn and see how he adjusted, because that would make me feel better about Kaiir Elam is another cornerback prospect who's super grabby, super grabby. But he's badass in on most of the other raps. So I hope I can say that. But
you're good.
Yes, he's good on all the other reps. But yes, Sauce the same way. He's kind of grabby as well.
Kaiir Elam, future Cardinal. My one issue with Sauce is he's not Derek Stingley, and he's never going to be Derek Stingley. Stop saying he's better than Derek Stingley, because he's not better than Derek Stingley. That's basically it. He doesn't have the tools Stingley does. He is not even close to the athlete that Stingley is. Max said it in one of our previous videos from the past. He ran, a 4.31 in high school?
In high school, yeah.
In high school, he ran a 4.3 in high school. Like, that is absolutely absurd. So might he run in the 4.2s at the combine? And hopefully we get one. But I mean, that's just it. He's never going to be Stingley, so stop saying he's better than Stingley. And honestly, I think Elam, if you watch the tape, Elam has better tape than Sauce, in my opinion. But I just think because of the injury concerns, I think Sauce is probably ahead of him. But once again, if we get a combine, if Elam's medicals are good, he's going to be my CB2. But that's basically it. He's not Derek Stingley. He doesn't have the tools. He's not as athletic. He's produced similarly to Derek Stingley, but he will never come close to what Derek Stingley Jr. did as a true freshman in the SEC. As a true freshman in the SEC, he was the best defensive player maybe in the country behind Chase Young that season.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing really else to add on. He's not Derek Stingley.
Yeah, Stingley. I'm gonna have Stingley as my cornerback 1-2, and I understand the concerns with him. I mean, 2 years in a row of foot injuries is bad, but his freshman year really was special. And, he's got ideal size. He's got ideal speed. He's got ideal, pad level and hips. And, everything about him is like, he'd be generational if it was like 2 or 3 years of his freshman year film. And I feel like after the combine, everyone is going to kind of like, oh yeah, Stingley. I feel like if people are like, okay, maybe he'll go 10, maybe Sauce is above him, maybe he goes like in the 10 to 15 range. I think after the combine, or if there is no combine, I assume there'll be pro days still. There's going to be some just ridiculous numbers put up by Stingley, and I think Sauce will have a good combine as well. But I think like maybe the agility drills maybe get him a little bit, and I don't have that same concern with Stingley. I don't have any concerns with at least freshman year Stingley outside of like injury. But yeah, Stingley's that guy in my opinion.
Exactly. It's like, dude, it's like you think about Stingley, it's like if the 2 years that we saw recently, if those were his first 2 years in college and then his freshman year was his junior year this year, it'll be like, dude, this guy is the #1 overall pick. Like that's how good Derek Stingley Jr. was. And I get the injuries. Like Nick, I think we mentioned this before. We're like, yeah, I get the injury concerns and all that. But yeah, I agree. Derek Stingley Jr. with the ball skills that he has too, which is unbelievable. Like he legitimately was going to play receiver for LSU this year. But back to Sauce Gardner. I'm a little concerned about his speed. I don't think his long speed is that great. However, it is good for his size because he's, like you guys mentioned, 6'3", 200 pounds. But he might run the high 4.4s, low 4.5s, which is still about average speed. So I'm not going to say bad speed, but certainly average speed is what I expect Sauce Gardner to run at the combine, hopefully, if he goes to it. The change of direction is probably my biggest weakness, though. I don't think he's very fluid flipping his hips at all. Not a lot of zone coverage reps on tape. The zone coverage reps that I've seen on tape were good, but it's kind of a thing with like Charles Cross where it's like he's a good run blocker, but they never run the ball. So you can't see that many reps on his tape. Right. With Ahmad Sauce Gardner, dude, it's like in zone coverage, when we've seen it, it looks good, but he's never done it. He's a press man corner, and that's basically always been his entire career. And I think he could stand to add some weight to his frame because he is this physical corner. And in the American Athletic Conference, you can get away with that being 200 pounds. But if you're trying to be a physical corner against like Julio Jones or anyone like that, it's not going to work, man, when you're 6'3", 200 pounds. So he does have to add a little bit of weight. And I think the competition level wasn't that great, but he did play really well against Alabama. So, Theo, I'm really interested on this, man. Give me your bottom line for Sauce Gardner, where he ranks for you, where he ranks in this cornerback class for you, maybe a player comp that you have, any team fits. Overall, what do you think about Sauce Gardner?
Overall, I think that he is probably cornerback 3 or 4 for me. I think Booth is maybe better. I think Stingley is probably above, and Elam, I probably prefer Elam just a little bit because I think that he has a similar size and like man coverage chops, while also being a little bit more fluid of an athlete, in my opinion, and a little bit, more battle tested in the SEC and just like a better frame in general. It's very small. So he's probably like all 3 of those or 4 of those guys, I think could go in the top half of the first round. That's like how good like all of them are, top 20. So I think that he's worth a top 20 pick. The bottom line on him is like, yeah, if you like press man, you'll like him. And for me, like a team fit is I think of like the Seahawks popularized guys like this. All right. Where you want long corners who play a lot of man coverage, and you play single high safety, man everybody up, you get an extra guy in the box, and you just have these like press corners that are taking guys away. And that was popularized by Dan Quinn. So I think the Cowboys are a team that makes a lot of sense for Gardner. I think I don't know, like the top cover one teams off the top of my head, but like definitely Cowboys with Dan Quinn. I think he'd be on their radar. I think that, like in terms of like where they are, I mocked him to Minnesota. It doesn't necessarily play like a total Seattle style of defense. I don't even know who their defensive coordinator is, to be perfectly honest with you right now. So maybe that's wrong. And I know Kevin O'Connell comes from LA, so maybe it's the exact opposite because they're more too high like type of team. But so maybe that's not the greatest team fit actually. But yeah, I think Dallas is the one that like sticks out to me. Is like I bet you Dan Quinn would just be like salivating over Gardner. So for a team fit, I would say probably that one.
You have a player comp for him? And I see the high end and low end, right?
The high end and low end. I think when I think of like tall, thin corners from the SEC, who are really good in man, I think that AJ Terrell is one guy who is a similar body type.
I like that.
And you know, I guess he's not from the SEC; he's from the ACC. He went to Clemson, but yeah. But I think AJ Terrell is kind of the upside with him at his frame, and I think the bottom is Baker, DeAndre Baker, I think his name was from New York, who was a massive draft bust.
Hopefully
he was someone.
Doesn't rob a store.
Yeah, no, he was. Yeah, well, yeah, the mental side was like not there, and that's where busts usually like bust is like they're just not mature enough to handle like NFL life, and that's definitely what Baker's downfall was. But I mean, he was getting kind of burned when he was even on the field, so that was someone who like was supposed to come in a little bit on the more thin side and was supposed to be like a really good press man coverage corner, and he just wasn't, and he flamed out. So I feel like Gardner's floor is someone like that, and his ceiling is so that's a really low floor and a really high ceiling. Like I think that's kind of this show is called Boomer Bust, right? I feel like that's kind of
perfect, man.
That's kind of like like Sauce Gardner is kind of Boomer Bust. I feel like someone with that kind of game who like mans up someone. Either if you're really good at that, you're like an all pro, but if you're bad at that, you suck. All right, like you are like you're on those like Instagram graphics, like, you know, allowing 100 yards like Eli Apple or something. But yeah, anyway, Boomer Bust. That's my high end and low end for him.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for putting up good tape against Alabama, so he's pretty high for me.
It's fair.
I've got him corner 2, and he's been number 8 on my board for a little bit, which is probably about as high as you're going to see. I mean, I guess there's some people out there who have him as like over Stingley as a top 5 player. That's a little rich. Especially from a guy who's played in the American Athletic Conference. Like I don't like, you know, this is a valuable position. I don't know if you're taking a corner top 5 from there, but you know, the tools are enough for me, and I think, you know, that tape is a big deal. I had this guy kind of more in the teens, more corner 3. Kyrie Elam and Trent McDuffie, I was kind of going back and forth above him. And I think that tape really did bump him up for me. And I think he is versatile. I know he didn't play a lot of zone, but I think the zone I saw was intriguing. I thought his instincts looked good when he did play zone. And I think you can move him around the defense. Donny brought up something that I talked about last summer. I thought there was a possibility that you could see him play a little bit of safety at the NFL level. We didn't see it in college this year. I don't know, maybe we did a little bit, but because I didn't watch every Cincinnati game. But I think it is a possibility that he is versatile enough to do some of that at the NFL level. I definitely think there will be some slot snaps there for him as well. And I think that versatility makes him a valuable player at the next level. And I think teams like the Jets who need a corner, I know he's not a perfect scheme fit for them, but that 10th pick, that could be an interesting fit. I think Atlanta just, you know, I don't know that he's going to go this early, but they just need corners in general. I don't think they really care what type of player it is. They would take him. Minnesota, I like that fit. Baltimore is one that I just kind of had my eyes open to recently that I think is very interesting because they play a lot of
man coverage. Like all their guys, Humphrey and Peters and all those guys, they like playing man. Although Don Martindale left, their defensive coordinator, he's on the Giants now, so that could be a fit, I guess.
Yeah, they got the Michigan guy. I forgot his name now. They brought in a Michigan D coordinator.
Yeah, I don't know that much about his system. I'm not gonna lie.
But I will say, as long as Harbaugh's been there, they've run a lot of, you know, different types of fronts up and try to, scheme pass rush in different ways. And because of that, your back end changes play to play. And that allows for more versatile guys to thrive. And, I think Marcus Peters could be gone. He saw a little bit of a dip at play this year, and that contract's a little more than they want to be paying. And there's a good chance he gets cut this offseason. So the Ravens will be looking for corners soon. They actually had a really not good defense last year. I expect that to improve, but they could be looking to draft corner at that 14th pick, as they have whenever they've picked high. They've gone corner in this past 6 to 8 years. The few times they've picked high. Comp. I'm still figuring this out right now. The guy that I got closest to is L'Jarius Sneed.
Oh, come on!
This happens to us every video now. They're just stealing each other's comps. This guy, Sneed is not like the longest guy, but he's got pretty long arms. He's pretty tall for a corner. I like that. Similarly, I think he's a guy that Chiefs move around a lot and plays a physical version of, the defensive style of play that you don't see as much, I think, from corners these days. But it's enough that you see him play a little bit of safety, a little bit of slot, and they even bring him as a blitzer in this for the Chiefs defense quite a bunch there from Steve Spagnuolo. And he gets involved and does a lot, actually, as a blitzer. I don't know that Ahmad Gardner is going to do that, but I think the physical style of play is similar and the versatility is similar.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So the bottom line is I think I'm the lowest out of you two on Gardner, currently number 11 on my board. He is my CB2, but like I kind of mentioned previously, give me the Kaiir Elam medicals, and if they're good, I'm putting Elam over Sauce, and that's going to be the end of the discussion. Comp, just like Nick, I put L'Jarius Sneed because I think he kind of has that versatility to play corner and safety. Even though we never really saw it in college, I think his length and his athleticism alone can make him a good safety. Just put him on an island, man. Put this guy on an island and he will do his work, but don't try to throw him in like a zone heavy scheme where I don't think he'll be bad, but he won't be his full potential. Team fits that I'm looking at possibly, like we mentioned, the Ravens is a good fit. I think the Steelers could be in play, even though they're going to almost guarantee take Malik Willis because they're in love with him apparently. And then I think another good fit that we didn't mention is possibly the Cardinals. Would I want to trade up for him? Because I don't think he's going to fall to 23. Not really, because I think we can get just maybe as good of a corner at 23. But that's a good scheme fit as well on a blitz-heavy team that runs a lot of man. But at the end of the day, he is my CB2. But give me the medicals on Elam, and if they're good, he's my CB2. And Sauce would be CB3.
That's fair. No, I have Sauce number 9 overall, CB2. So it's the production of CB1, but like the people who have him over Derek Stingley, man, like that high end.
I don't get it. I just don't get it.
It's tough. It's just because the high end athleticism and the high end plays that just aren't there where you see for Derek Stingley Jr., who legitimately was the best corner in the country as an 18-year-old. I think it's actually closer. So I have Sauce number 9. Trent McDuffie, I have 10. I love Trent McDuffie, who I think might be a little bit more athletic, really good zone corner, kind of like the antithesis of Sauce Gardner, where it's like he's a really good zone corner. Maybe not a man corner, but you put him in zone, really physical brand that Washington plays that you see at corner all the time. Elijah Molden was very similar. They are very physical corners. I like Trent McDuffie a lot. So I think those two, interchange those two. I don't think you can interchange Stingley and Sauce for me. Comp, I stole this from Mike Renner, who I like this comp a little bit. I didn't love any other ones. Jimmy Smith I had, who was another Ravens corner, played a ton of press man coverage, a little bit bigger, was good, not great speed. That's what I think Sauce has too. Team fits, you guys mentioned them all. Falcons, Broncos, I think could be a team that I know they're in the hunt for a quarterback.
If they want to take another cornerback, go on ahead. If they want to, go on ahead.
You know what? Surtain and Sauce, dude. I love that pairing right there. Although Fields and Sauce might have been a little bit better, but hey, that's it. But that's what we got on Sauce Gardner, dude. Thanks so much, Theo, for coming on. This is awesome.
No problem. I appreciate it. I'm excited to get into it. I don't know when even is the combine. Is the combine in March?
March
1st.
So
yeah.
It's in a week.
Oh hell yeah!
It's in a week from tomorrow, actually.
Yeah,
that's big time. I didn't even realize it was coming up that soon. I just saw that the NFL bent and is not going to make them stay in a bubble. So
thank God. Okay,
the combine will probably happen here.
Good. Years without combine would have been rough.
Yeah, because there's like 150 players that are about to opt out of it if they didn't.
Yeah.
So that would have been really bad.
That's
but
hilarious.
that would have been really
the pro
bad.
days. They probably would have done their pro days, but I do not trust the pro day time. I swear to God, every single player last year ran a 4.3. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
dude.
remember when I said Eric Stokes ran a 4.24, and I was like, no.
Yeah,
I didn't believe that until my Packers drafted him, and then I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we drafted a corner with a 4.24.
I believe the pro day. I believe pro day times for guys I loved, and I didn't believe for guys I hated. So when Patrick,
if they confirm my priors, it's true. If it doesn't, then I don't believe it.
No, exactly. Patrick Surtain, who everyone was like, oh, he doesn't have the athleticism, and then he ran a 4.3 at Alabama's pro day. I was like, look, I told you so.
Look, I told you. Yeah, I love Surtain. He was my second favorite defensive player in the class last year, I think.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I love Surtain, dude. He was I think a top 5 grade for me. But that's what we got on Sauce Gardner. So please like and subscribe. Follow Theo on Twitter and TikTok at Theo Ash NFL. Follow us at Boomer Bust Draft, and please like and subscribe below. So for Nick Merriam, Donny Clemons, and Theo Ash, I'm Max Chadwick. Have a great night.